¿Qué onda? Thanks for watching Doing Life with Jenny. If you're new here, I just moved from St. Louis in the US to Mexico to the state of Hidalgo. A subscriber left a very good question the other day, and I thought it was worth its own video. Is it better to rent or buy or build in Mexico? I'm going to kind of lump buying and building together. And after you watch this video, make sure you watch the video about everything you need to know before you buy or build in Mexico. I posted that a few weeks ago. Two quick things before we get started. One, a lot of these things apply to any country. They're just general pros and cons of buying versus renting, but I promise there is a lot of Mexico-specific information too, including all you need to know about maintenance. Which brings me to point number two. I am just a teacher. I am just a Spanish/English teacher. I don't know much about construction. This is just what my architect and my friends have told me, but it will give you a very good idea as to what to expect. So let's get started. My buddy Penny is here. She's my foster. She gets spayed this weekend and then she'll be up for adoption. So she's helping us today. And our buddy Sammy is getting fixed as we speak. So we're watching the phone so we know if it's time to go pick him up. So I think a lot of people do international moves for financial reasons. Maybe you're retired and you have a fixed income. So renting may not be your best option because rent is going to increase each year. It's guaranteed. Whereas if you buy or build, your mortgage is going to be very stable as long as your interest is fixed rate and you don't sign up for something crazy like some balloon interest. However, it can be difficult to near impossible to get loans, especially mortgages living abroad. I honestly don't know anything about that in regards to US citizens living in Mexico. I'll do some research and I'll slap it on the screen for you. The ideal situation would be to buy or build in cash, so it's all paid for. You don't have to worry about rent increasing, you don't have to worry about paying that mortgage. All you're responsible for is your property taxes, which are very cheap here. So remember, I'm in the state of Hidalgo near Pachuca. In this area, you can find an apartment or a small house starting for as little as $25,000. Like in that $25,000 to $40,000 price range, that's getting you something. Is it the something you want? I don't know. I'm going to leave this website, inmuebles24.com, on the screen, so you can type in the city you're interested in living in and see if they have things in your price range. Of course, the prices can go on up to the millions of dollars, but that's probably out of reach for a lot of people. If you're looking at living along the border or along the beach, then maybe renting is your best option because there are restrictions in foreigners buying within so many kilometers of the border and within so many kilometers of the coastline. It is possible, but you have to jump through an extra set of hoops. The next thing to consider with rent is that you're probably earning in dollars or euros, and here you're paying rent in pesos. Well, what happens when the exchange rate goes up and down and sometimes in the wrong direction? It means you're using more of your dollars or euros and they're not going as far to pay your rent. Whereas if you buy or build, you're doing that in the local currency, or again, ideally, you've paid cash and that's it. A pro of renting in Mexico is usually all of the utilities are included. Water, electric, and internet. I've never seen it where it's water and sewer, it's just water. I'm not sure about the trash pickup, if that's already included in your taxes or how that works. I'll try to find out and put it on the screen if I am able to. Sometimes when I do these videos, I realize I need to do more research, but I'm already sitting down to do the video, so I might as well just do it, otherwise it's not going to get recorded. So obviously, if you own the property, utilities are on you. So let me go through the cost of utilities in my neck of the woods. Here in my neighborhood, it's supposed to be 90 pesos or about $5 a month for water, no matter how much you use. Not all neighborhoods are like that. Some of them do charge you by use, but water is relatively cheap here. The internet in my neighborhood is 400 pesos, a little over $20 a month. And it has been pretty reliable. I teach online and I have not had any trouble with the Zoom calls or Google Meets calls. The only thing is if I upload a video that's more than like 10 minutes long, it does sometimes take a while. But I've been really pleased with the internet. I think if I have a problem, usually it's in the evening because like it's a house and some apartments, so we're sharing internet. So it's like in the evening when everybody's home and maybe watching streaming services, then I notice sometimes the Zoom call might cut out a little bit here and there. But that will be resolved once I live in my house and it's my internet all to myself. Most people don't have like 12 people on the same internet. And then electricity should run about 200 pesos a month or a little over $10 a month. And then also you'll have gas here for your stove and or your water heater. I don't know the cost of that. I'll try to ask, and if I find out, I'll let you know on the screen. But my guess is that if you're renting, the gas isn't included either. The next good thing about renting is that you are not in charge of the repairs. So sometimes that's ideal just because you don't want to mess with it. It can be a hassle to find someone reliable that's going to show up and show up when they said they're going to show up. But if your landlord isn't on the ball, maybe they're going to take their time getting to those repairs, or maybe they're not going to take care of them at all. So let me run through the maintenance costs for if you own the property. It's kind of a lot, but if you're earning a decent amount in dollars, it's very manageable. First, you're going to need to clean your cistern about 2 times a year. It might run you 500 to 600 pesos. You're going to need to waterproof your roof. There are some that last for 3 years, all the way up to 12 years. So how long it lasts is going to obviously dictate the price as well as the size of your home. But it's going to run you about 170 pesos per square meter. If you have a solar water heater, you do need maintenance on that about 2 times a year, depending on if you have hard water or not. And I feel like throughout most of Mexico, they do have hard water, including where I live. It will cost about 600 pesos just for general maintenance for them to come out and make sure everything is in good working order. It is very common for it to get sarro, which in English is like the mineral buildup. Is there a word for that in English? And the cost of the maintenance for that does depend on how many tubes your solar water heater has. Since the exterior of the homes are painted here, there's no siding. You could have like plain brick, but it's not the norm. You will have to get that repainted every so many years. And for labor, it'll be about 20 to 40 pesos per square meter just for the labor. And then for one of those huge buckets of paint, I think like 5 gallons, those start out about 1,500 pesos or about $80 US. So I don't know how much paint you need. You'll also need to get your tinaco, like your water tower, cleaned about once a year. I don't have a cost for that, but I imagine it's like 300 to 500 pesos. And then lastly, you're going to have a water pump, a bomba, that gets your water from your cistern up to your tinaco on your roof. So as you can imagine, once in a while you have to replace those or have someone come out and fix it. A brand new one runs about 150 US dollars or around 3,000 pesos. Another thing to consider is that if you need to do something with the electrical system or plumbing, you have to drill into the wall since it's all cement block. It's not just drywall that you can cut into work and patch it up real quickly. So that's something to keep in mind. Next, if you're renting, usually the landlord is going to ask for like a fiador, which is kind of like a cosigner. Just in case you don't pay rent, they can go to that cosigner and they're in charge of the rent. So one, it might be hard for you to get someone to do that since you're probably new to the area and don't know many people or not on that level. And 2, I would personally never do that for anyone else because that puts me in financial jeopardy. I don't know how willing people are to do it. My friend did it for me for my apartment. I have seen YouTubers that offer to pay like 6 months to a year upfront to work around that. If you're renting, it is possible to find places that are already furnished or semi-furnished. I'm sure if you buy an existing home, some people may be willing to throw in some furniture as well. Of course, if you're renting, you're not allowed to make many changes, if any, to the property, such as painting or maybe drilling holes in the wall to hang something up. And if it's your house, you can do whatever you want. If you want it neon pink, paint it neon pink. If you want nail holes everywhere, have at it. I will say my landlord has been pretty flexible. Like, I don't know how picky people are here, but I asked permission before I drilled a hole to hang up my coat rack. I gave you prices for owning earlier, the rent in my area. If you're just going to rent like a bedroom or it's a shared house kind of situation, that'll run you about $60 US. But if you want an apartment, you can easily find those starting lower than $175 US. You can even get a 3-bedroom for $220. And I tried not to pick the cheapest of the cheapest when looking at these prices. I tried to pick like the ones that were right above the cheapest price, because I didn't want the luxury apartments like throwing off what the like normal apartment costs. Because of course you can get some for $2,000 US a month if you want. That is a ridiculous price here. But yeah, if you're just getting a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment and you're paying over $200 a month, you're doing something wrong. Again, this is for my state. Then the last thing to note, if you own the property, whether it be you own an apartment or a condo or a home in like a gated community, is that you do have your equivalent of HOA fees. They call it maintenance fees, and almost every single one I've come across is 500 pesos a month, which is slightly more than $25 US a month. So I hope you found this video helpful and informative. I would just personally say that if you know this place is the place you want to be long term, buy a place. I would also say if you're on a fixed income, buy a place, because you know the cost of that is not going to go up. If your plans are a little more up in the air, or you want 0 responsibilities, or you know your income is going to increase along with inflation, then maybe renting is your option. Oh, one thing I just thought of, okay? A lot of people in Mexico, a lot of people that come to Mexico like that you don't have to have a car and give their cars up. So if you're renting and you need to move because the landlord is selling the property or you didn't like the place or whatever, just think about that's another expense too if you have to pack up your stuff and move it across the city or move it across the country and you don't personally own a car. Not that it's going to be a ridiculous price, but just factor that in. One of these days we'll go into a lot of detail about home maintenance in Mexico, but just give me at least a year to go through it myself. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you'd like to see more content about me living in Mexico and see a house tour coming up very soon, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Adios!